Isaac Hayes was undoubtedly one of the most accomplished artists during the era of the smooth, sophisticated groove music that transformed into South Soul, essentially a hybrid between salsa and soul music in the mid-1970s. As Professor Miller mentioned in lecture, during the 1970s, blaxploitation films were emerging, which were a film genre that emerged in the United States originally made specifically for an urban black audience, but soon broadened across the racial and ethnic lines. Blaxploitation films were the first to regularly feature soundtracks of funk and soul music, as well as primarily black casts. Following Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, Shaft was also released in 1971, and Isaac Hayes soared to the top of billboards for that soundtrack, getting to the heart of what it means to be popular in pop music. With Theme from Shaft, Hayes delivered an anthem that captured the essence of the film's main character even better than the movie itself, making one of the most unforgettable opening credits sequence in film's history. According to the New York Times, Hayes wrote the famous song on the Shaft soundtrack, wanting it to be a kind of abstract of the other melodies in the picture. Isaac Hayes' Theme from Shaft earned Hayes his only #1 pop single in 1971, winning an Oscar for Best Song and leading him to become the first African-American composer to win an Oscar for Best Score, making him an icon of Black pride, claimed AllMusic Incorporated. According to AV Club, an entertainment website, the soundtrack, mostly due to Theme from Shaft, became one of the fastest-selling albums in the history of Stax Records, the storied Memphis soul label that originally released it. AV Club also emphasizes the revenue that Shaft raised. It cost $1.2 million to make, but earned back $10.8 million during its first year. In Ed Guerrero's book, Framing Blackness, he claims that this revenue confirmed the industry's discovery of a hungry black audience that would wait in lines around the block to see black heroes victorious on screen, leading to a dense era of new black soundtracks for black films, including songs by Marvin Gaye's Trouble Man and James Brown's Black Caesar. Shaft South Soul disco music certainly incorporates the layering of instrumentals that Cronengold discusses in his writing. Shaft follows his claim about disco at this time and its tendency towards stratified textures, which allows cross-barring between genres. The layering of instrumentals produces anticipation for excited listeners and creates the smooth, sophisticated groove music appeal that Professor Miller discussed in lecture. Cronengold also explains disco's conventions that songs like Shaft borrow from, like processed percussion sounds that stay consistent throughout the entirety of the song. The consistency of the steady drum beat and electric guitar throughout the song forces the audience to recognize the underlying harmony of the world-famous song very easily. The opening wah-wah guitar notes, well before the piano, flute, and funky bass, dominates the entrance of the song, even though eventually each tonal color balances one another to create the masterpiece as a whole. The vocals, heard after over a minute and a half of solely instrumentals, follow a call-and-response lyrical technique similar to songs and genres we have discussed in lecture and discussion, particularly in African-American blues, jazz, and rock and roll, examples such as Ain't Nobody Here But Us Chickens by Louis Jordan. Similar to other disco works at this time, as explained by Cronengold, the stratified texture of songs like Shaft sound as if they have their own power source, independent of whatever momentum the guitar, congas, and voice establish, like they require no human effort, and like they can go on forever. During the opening of Shaft, dancers should feel the bassline texture with the knowledge that the texture and percussions will grow and change for full effect sophisticated groove disco sound. The emergence of South Soul during this time as disco sound was the perfect foundation for Hayes to popularize Shaft.